Hello and welcome to another bodgit and leggit video. Now we're finally going to be doing work on this Citroen, so I'm going to convert it to electronic ignition. I still don't know how I'm going to do most things on it, so I'm going to just kind of have to be, as I'm going along, I'll figure it out. Don't know how long or many parts of this video there's going to be, so we'll see in the end. I'm struggling to talk, so I went to the dentist yesterday, so I might sound a bit funny, but we're going to get into it. We're going to, I'm going to do the coil first, so I'm going to replace the coil, replace things as I go on, and then figure out other things as I go on. So let's get cracking into it. Right, some things might be difficult for me to film because as you can see there's not a lot of room, but we have the old coil down here and we have the pre-resistor on the side of it. Once I get it off, I'll actually show you a lot better. It's more or less looks identical to the new coil. Even the way it fits in, there's just two bolts to let the coil fit in, or you can even just loosen the mount. It just depends. We're going to put the new mount on and everything. You've got the HT lead that goes in, you've got plus and minus, so you've got the power that controls, you know, the rev count and all that, and plus also the power going into it to actually make the thing work. But again, we've got some really old connections here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the kit in first, and then I'm going to worry about the connection, because there's some part of the wiring loom I'm replacing, some part of the wiring loom I'm not, but I might have to put new connections on. As you can see with the likes of this wire here, we've got a connection, we've got two connections in the space of about 3 inches of each other. Now the more connections you've got, just the more possibilities you have for things going wrong. So I'm going to be taking out the likes of these connections, because there's just no point having them, just having one connection, checking the wires. If the wires are okay, replace them with new connections, and we'll kind of go from there really. So what I need to do first is take this off, and it looks like two 13 or 14mm bolts. Well, the 13mm bolts, one of them are easy to get, these are going to be quite tricky. I only actually have to take one completely off and loosen the other one, because the way the slots are, you should be able to get away with doing that. And what I mean by that is, as you can see, these are slotted, so if I loosen one, take off the other one, I can just slot this out. Now, just as I thought, we could slide it out, but there's something else on here. Let's just see what it is. We have the old coil. Be careful, because all these are coming off. You want to keep. Now, obviously, it's old. I don't know if you can see. This is the pre-resistor here. There's a lot of rust, all the connections are rusty. This is the other connection I was telling you about. So you've got two connections within the space of a couple of inches of each other. So we're going to replace all them. So there, that's it. All there, even the actual connections on the coil. Again, I don't know if the camera's going to show this. Try and spin it. They're all rusty too. So all that rust and the connections are loose, which doesn't help. So all that rust, loose connection, old, it all adds up to kind of a big deal as regards making this thing working. And the last thing we have on this is basically a suppressor. It's a 2.2 microfarad. See, I can hardly talk because of my mouth. Anyway, so what this is really designed for is for radio interference. So with this old setup, you would struggle to maybe get radio stations, or you might get interference and stuff, but with our new setup we don't actually need this. Now it's a thing, don't throw it away, or kind of keep it, and if you do have any problems you can always put it back in, but with this new setup we should be having no interference problems. So I'm going to get rid of it for our new setup, and if we need to put it back, but it's not really a big deal. But for the time being we're going to get rid of this. So all this is going. Like I said, I'm going to keep the original connections just for the minute. I'm going to wire everything in, and I'm going to go, once I've got everything in place, I'm going to go through everything to see what I need to take off, what I can live with, and all that type of stuff. So we're going to install everything first before I worry about taking or cutting any of the wires off. So what I'm going to do now is very simply just put this back, what I'm also going to make sure is that I've got this the right way. And what I mean by that is, as you can see from the coil, you've got a plus and a minus. Now this can twist within this, and I'm just going to see, yeah, so we have the plus towards the engine. So when I put that in, my plus is towards the engine, it's not that way. So this can just, again, I'm not going to be able to show you because it's just too dark down there, but all I've done is I've just put it on the two little clips, two 13mm bolts, and that screws it securely to the actual frame or the mount of the car. Now if you are unsure when you're doing wirings, it's always good to take pictures of everything. Just get your phone out and take pictures of everything, because if you do accidentally pull a wire or something falls off, you know exactly where it goes. It's no harm to have a reference with these type of things. What I'm going to do is, no point me filming this because you can't see, I'm just going to put this second bolt on, secure this, then we're going to transfer the wires from this coil to that coil, and then we're going to continue on with the job. Right, I tried to get a bit better camera angle. You can see the new coil just popping out here, and this is the old coil. Now like I said, we're not using this here, so I can disconnect that, and lucky enough, the connection I was telling you about was actually for this. So we can take that out. Again, I'm not going to throw it, but we're going to take that out, and we're just going to use the straight connection. So we've got two of the battery connections, or the power connections here. And as, again, hopefully the camera's picking up, you can just see how rusty that connection is. Now, we are going to be replacing all these connections, but for the time being I'm just going to put everything in place before I worry about replacing anything. So I'm just going to connect these two wires. Well, I can't connect that one yet because this one's in the way. So just connect two power wires, the two plus wires, and then connect the two negative ones. This one seems to be a bit better connection now. But again, we won't worry about any of these yet until this one doesn't even want to go back into its cover. But again, that's not a big deal at the minute. Let's just pop that down there. Now, we'll have the coil and everything out. So that's the old one. Now I can show you this a lot easier. You can see all the rust and all the connections, they're just rusty. This is, well, it might not be the genuine one, but it is definitely going to be, you know, 20 odd years old, if not maybe 30 odd years old. So, you know, it's good replacing that. The one we replaced it with is a lot stronger, it's a lot more modern. And again, we're not using this unless we have radio interference. We will use it, but at the minute we shouldn't need to. Now, a bit of history. And the other thing about these pre-resistors is if they're not working properly, they can take all the power away from the actual coil. So with the new modern ones, you don't need these pre-resistors. And there we go. So we're going to put that away. I'm not going to throw this, just going to put that away. Right, next thing I'm going to do is take off and make the new HT leads. As you can see, I've marked the cap. So it's 1, 3, 4, 2, which is the firing order, but we've marked the cap, so when I take them all off, I know basically where to put them back. I am going to be getting a new cap, but I'm just going to use this one for the time being. Now, one thing I have noticed, I'm just going to pull the plugs out of the way. The plugs are off. One thing I have noticed, I don't know if the camera's going to show it up, there's a thing here. I don't know if you can, let's maybe bring the camera a bit closer. It looks like a little suppressor on the HT lead, on number 1 HT lead. And it goes down to another little box. And what I think it is, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's kind of a rudimentary diagnostic socket. This will monitor the spark and the revs, and it monitors other things as well. It's the same as this. The timing light that you put on, this is basically what that is, so it allows you to monitor it. I don't think it's particularly needed. I'm going to put it back on, but I don't think we really need it. It's not going to affect us. I can still put my timing light on, so it's not the end of the world. But I just want to take all these leads off to get them, to get the length of them for the new one. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to pull this off so I can take that out now. And we can still get the length of the lead. So, should hopefully now have, as we can see, all the leads off. I'm going to make the new ones. This is where you're going to want to take your time. I want to do this so they're nice and neat. I want to hide them, well, not so much hide them, but I want to put them in a different position to what they were, just to make the engine look that little bit neater. And so yeah, we're going to make the new ones now. And this is how we get them. We get the spark plug socket on one end, and we get nothing on the other end, because obviously we can cut these to size. Now you don't really have to cut them, but it just looks neater if you do. And we're going to use the old ones as the template for these new ones. And we get the one in the middle then. That goes between the coil and the HT lead. That's got no ends on. So we need to make both ends, but lucky enough I think that's just the right length. Yeah, I don't think we're going to have to cut that one, but we're going to definitely have to cut some of these here. So let's get this set up on the bench and we'll show you how it's done. Now the way I like to do it is lay everything out first so you know where you're kind of going. So I've laid out the kit that I got. This is just some conduit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the HT leads inside this conduit so it just looks like there's one kind of lead rather than 3 or 4. I'm not going to be able to put number 1 in this because of the thing I showed you on it, but I can put 3 of them in it. It just make it look a little bit tidier. We have the old leads here, so I know the measurements, and we have 2 sets of connections. Now unfortunately they're both wrong. We're not going to use these ones, so we can move these out of the way. We need this one. This one is for the coil. And again, these ones, they are kind of right, but unfortunately, as you can see, they're a 90-degree angle, and we need straights. So these are going to be no good, but these will be. Now, I'm going to have to cut these here, not use this 90, but that's not the end of the world. So I'm going to take one of them off here, so I'll take number 4 off. Get this out of the way for a minute, just so you can see. These have been made up as well. They're not genuine ones, and as you can see, if I pull this one out, we have the little connection, with the little connection there, so I can still use half of this connection. I'm just going to cut the 90 off and still use this connection, and I'm also going to use these rubbers here, so we'll be able to get away with it. So it's just a case of pulling these off first, as we can see. Pull it off. Now I've pulled the whole thing together, but that doesn't matter. I just need to get that out of there now. As we can see, that is now out of there. But we still have this for our lead. So what I'm going to do is, I don't need the old connection, but I do need the rubber. So we're going to pick one of these leads. Now what you do have to be careful of is, inside the lead, the electrode starts there, so where it actually connects to the plug is there. So remember that. If your old lead and it starts at the top, you're going to have to stagger your lead, because you have to be very careful. These, to be fair, they look like they're about the same distance down. So it's a simple case. Now also remember, well, I didn't take that much off, so that's okay, but we need to cut, not here where the actual rubber ends, but where the actual bit inside ends. So we need to cut here. So just, that's another thing, don't cut where the rubber ends, because you need this bit of tail sticking out. So just put them all together, up and down. And cut, simple as that. Like I said, these are new modern plugs, so internally they're a lot better and they're more modern than the ones we're taking off. And now what we need to do is we need to cut and get a little tail, as you can see, so the wire in the middle, we need that now. And again, you can use the bit as use the bit you've cut off as a guide so you know roughly where to cut it. Now you have to be careful here, this is like stripping wires. You have to take the rubber off and the white core out, but leave the actual bit in the middle free. And if you're unsure and you're a bit scared, the easiest thing to do is practice on the bit you've just cut off. Now all I'm doing is basically cutting it, and you can actually, as you can see, that popped out. But again, I'm used to it. I'm used to doing that with wires and all sorts. So practice on the new bit first. All I was doing, as I was pressing it, I was twisting it around my hand. So I'm cutting it, but I'm not pressing. If I press all the way through too hard, I'm going to cut it off. So I wasn't pressing all the way through. I was just cutting it. And once you've done it, you can actually see. But again, if you're unsure, just practice. So again, I'm going to do it on the proper one. So just cut it round and pull it off. You can feel it going in. Simple as that. But you have to be careful because it doesn't take much to snip that off. I'm going to use this rather than using this to crimp it, because on the 90-degree bend I'm going to crimp it internally here. Still exactly the same thing, it's not going to make any difference. I just need to make this smaller. So you can actually just push that straight for the minute so I can get to it, and all I'm going to do is, how close do I want it? Yeah, that'd be fine. Cut this directly at the split. I don't know if you can see that. There's like a split in there, so I'm just going to cut that directly from the back. This might be a lot harder than, there we go. Just get through there. Now I'm left with just that. Now once we've done that, what we need to do is we need to bend the little tail down like that. Simple as that. Put this on then. Not that one. Put this on now. The little tail you've bent down, make sure, as you can see from the connection, this is the split end, make sure it goes in where the end isn't split. So make sure it goes on the back where it's flush. So all you got to do, you can see, I'm just going to push that down. Again, it can be a tight fit, so I'm going to have to open this out slightly. So I'm just going to open the connection out slightly. So I've just, hopefully you can see that. Open that out. Well actually, lucky enough that didn't go down, because what I've got to do, I've got to put on the rubber connection first. Now, these are thicker than the old leads, so it's going to take a bit of fiddling just to get this down. To make it easy, I'm just going to spray a bit of lube down here, just so this should hopefully slide on that bit easier now. Once I get it past it first, initially it's going to be okay. It's just trying to get it past. That's not going to work. So I'm going to try and open this up slightly. I have to be careful now. So I'm just going to put the pliers in. As you can see, I'm just stretching the rubber slightly, and we can maybe just open the pliers a little bit just to stretch that rubber. Have to be careful you don't break it. And now, as we can see, that has gone on with a bit of stretchiness. Once it's on, oh, it's the WD now, I can't grip it. Once it's on, it will just slide down. So that's what we need. Important to get that on first, because without that, you can put that connection on and you're going to have to rip the connection back off. So it's important to get that on first. Now, so the little leg we was talking about, you push the leg down. Make sure it's at the back, so in other words it's not at the point here, because obviously as you can see it's not going to get proper connection if it's there, so we need to make sure that's at the back. It just stops it from moving and it puts it in the most secure position possible, and all we do then is slide this all the way down until it meets to the top of the connection, and then we need to crimp it. Now there is most probably a special tool for this, but I don't have one. I'm just going to use the pliers. I've never had a problem with using pliers before, so first I'm going to squeeze it together, but then I'm going to actually crimp it down. So I need that, as you can see, I don't know if the camera's showing you that, that's actually gripped into the rubber. So if I show that way maybe, and we can do the same with this one, so it actually is gripping down and pinching the rubber. Rather than just squeezing it together, I'm not squeezing it together, I'm trying to squeeze them two ends down so they actually pinch into the rubber. As you can see, that's basically it. So again, and it's best to squeeze it together and crimp it down at the same time. See if I can do it on camera. It's a bit difficult on camera, but you get the idea. So we can move further down into the pliers, crimp it down, crimp it together. As we crimp it down and crimp it together, and believe me now, that is not going to move. And it's always a good thing to check it. Try and pull it apart, because you shouldn't be able to pull it apart. If it pulls off too easy, you know you're going to have to do it again. You kind of do have a couple of goes with this, but you do want to just get it right kind of first time. And then we slide this back up. You want to keep it, well, it depends on your, all depends on what cap you've got, but you want to keep it just above the cap. Maybe sometimes you might want it about there. The easiest way to know if you've got it right is you want to fit it back in the cap, make sure it actually crimps in and it pushes in like that. You don't want it pushing in and it only goes up to there. It needs to go all the way in like that. So that's how you know, and it's as simple as that really. Nothing to it. And then the other end is for the plug. Now, yeah, I can't show you the connection inside there, but it's very similar to the connection I've just showed you. But you can feel, now this is not the right plug for the car, but you can feel it kind of clipping in into the connection. So, and again, these connections can work the way loose too. So if they're actually, if they don't feel like a good connection, you can very carefully get some pliers and actually push down onto them, just to, you're not able to see in there, but just to crimp the connection together. But that really is, that's as simple as, that's really is. It's very, very simple. What I'm going to do, just so I know for my own sake, I'm going to do one lead at a time, and I'm going to mark on the lead what number it is. So with this lead is number 4, so I'm just going to do 4 lines like I did on the distributor cap, just in case for any reason it gets muddled up, I don't put it back or anything like that, we know exactly where it goes. And you can always, once you've actually got the job done, you can just wipe the Tipp-Ex off so you can't really see it. But we just know then that this goes to number 4, we know it's in and we know it's fine. I'm going to do the rest, the other 4 now, because I've got to do the centre one. And once I've done that, we'll turn the camera back on and it's one more thing done. One thing is you need to make sure is when you're crimping these connections, if you crimp it just one way, so I'm just going to show you this all once. If I press all the way down, I don't know if that camera you can see, that's now oblong, that's not completely round. And the problem if you do that, it won't fit in the hole. Now I know it goes this way, but as you can see, it's not round and it actually gets stuck. So I'll just show you this way. It won't go in. So you have to make sure these connections are round. Well, not perfectly round, but a lot rounder than that. And as you can see from the connection that I've just done, you can push this in and this will go all the way in. I don't want to do it because I want to put this on here first, but as you can see, that will go in. It's not going to get caught. It doesn't just go that far, it goes all the way in, it's not going to get caught. So it's a good thing just to make sure your connections are round, because when your cover's on, you won't be able to tell properly if it goes all the way in, and it might not be making proper connection, and you'll be thinking, well, why is the car not starting? And the last place you're going to look is here. So just double make sure that that connection does go in and it goes in all the way. Now this is the thing when you're doing a job like this, everything keeps changing. Like, I've changed my mind a few times. On the main lead that goes to the coil, I've put a 90 on it. So when the actual cap is in, as you can see, this comes off at a 90. So we're not, it used to be a straight, and as you can see, you're kind of putting pressure on that wire there. So what I've done is I've made it a 90, so this can go off to the coil and it's a straight connection. it's not putting pressure on the actual connection here. It's nice and straight. So that's something I kind of thought of as I was doing it. And also, I cut this connection in half and showed you how to fit it, but I've stopped that. I didn't like the connection, even though it would have worked, but I just didn't like it. We have enough room to actually get one of these connections, straighten it out. So as you can see, I've just straightened it out to put the straight connection on, but lucky enough this rubber cap is long enough to actually take that. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm just going to put it exactly the same way in, squeeze the two ends down, then hopefully this is coming through. Squeeze the two ends down and really give these a nice squeeze down and also a squeeze together. Now these doesn't matter if they're sticking out slightly like that. These don't have to be perfectly round. All that has to be perfectly round is this connection down here. But now this will still slide on to about there, because that's where it needs to be. Oh, so this will slide on to about there, and it fits in nice and easy, just like that. Now the only thing I've got to do, I've got to be careful, is number one, well it's falling off, it doesn't matter. Number one, I can't make up on the bench. This is number one lead. I have to make up on the car because I have to slide that little electrode thing through, or little electromagnet, whatever it is, so it can actually monitor the spark. So I'm going to do that on the car. That's the last one I've got to do. But it's going to be done exactly the same way. And as you can see, they're a lot thicker, a lot nicer. And I think especially with this connection here being a 90, it's not going to put so much pressure, because this is the most important lead. This is the lead that brings all the spark, and then it basically separates it to these ones depending on where the rotary arm is. So it's going to look a lot better. And once I put it in this conduit, again, it's going to just look really neat. We can then put the conduit and maybe cable tie the conduit to some part of the engine that's not hot, obviously, and it'll just look a lot nicer when you look under the bonnet. So let's get cracking. Now, what I figured what this is actually for. This must control the rev counter. So that's what that does. That basically, it reads the spark and it gives you how many revs you're onto the engine. So you have to remember to build this on the engine. So I had to put this connection on the engine because obviously, as you can see, it doesn't come out. So that's just a quick thing. And what I've done here is, as you can see, I've got the actual cap here, and I've put all in a conduit, so it's nice and neat, and the leads are sticking out. I can't put number one in it, but I might be able to put number one in it a little bit. But it's going to make, I can maybe slide number one in just a little bit, but it's going to make a lot neater. And with the 90-degree bend that's on here, that will actually stop. As you can see, that goes to the coil then. That won't put any pressure on the actual coil wire, so there'll be no pressure on the joint there. So again, but that's just, it evolves as you're doing things. You just think of things and you think, oh, that's a good idea, and then it just kind of evolves that way. So what I'm going to do is I'll most probably put this one under here, cable tie it nice and neatly, so you don't really see that. What I'm going to have to do next, I'm going to take the spark plugs out, get ready for the new ones to go in. The 16mm spark plug. Oh, that's very tight. Jesus, that is tight. A longer ratchet, but that is... Oh, that was tight. Now these plugs are going to be very black because the car wasn't running properly. So we're going to put new ones in with all the new stuff we put in. should be a million times better. The new ones we got are the same name, so we can actually check the numbers, and the numbers are right, which is good. So we definitely know we've got the right plugs, but it's also just a good thing just to check the length, everything about them. And as you can see, that's the black one. Now, when a plug burns properly, the colour you need to look for, it's an old plug, but as you can see, it's kind of a biscuity colour. That's the colour you need to look for. Now, to be fair, on this car, you might not get that exact colour because it is the older kind of style of ignition. This is designed for a coil pack, and obviously it's a lot stronger spark. Now, we are going to get a stronger spark with the system we're putting on, but that kind of gives you a good idea what to actually look for. Again, it's very black, and there's a lot of petrol on there because it wasn't, again. So we are gonna get black crappy plugs. Now, one thing I'm gonna have to be careful of is, I don't know if we've got any problems as with the carburetors or anything like that. If we've got any problems as the gaskets are leaking or anything like that, that means it's going to be drawing more air in, so it's going to be tricky to start. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put all the system in and then see if it starts. If we're still having problems, then we know we're going to maybe have to look into this, but hopefully that's not the case. Number 3 spark plug is kind of awkward on this, so I'm going to have to maybe get a different extension. Now, there's one extension. No, let's see this. No, I might get the bottom now. Unless, play first. There we go. Now, practice quickly. Do that by hand. And there's the last one out. So I'm going to put these 4 plugs in. No point in me filming it. Exactly the same as taking them out. So yeah, I think we figured out what this is for. I think it's actually a bit of both. I think from the looks of it, you can plug some sort of diagnostic tool in there, some sort of old-fashioned tester, and I do think it's for the speedo. So I think it's for a bit of both. It looks like it does a couple of other things too, but you know, that's basically what it is. What we're going to do on the next video is we're going to actually get to this fella. This is what's going to take me a lot of time, and that's why I'm going to do a separate video on it. Once I get all the gubbins and everything put inside there, then we need to see if this starts, and then I'm going to have to go through all the wires, check all the connections, make sure there's enough voltage going to where there needs to be, and then just kind of go through there. So I'm guessing there's maybe going to be 3 parts to this video. Not 100% sure yet, and hopefully it goes quite smoothly. I'm going to have to time it however you look at it, but hopefully that won't be too bad. And yeah, so look, that's it. I'm going to call it for this video, and that's basically it. So don't forget, check out my new shop. Website and everything's going to be up shortly, and yeah, thumbs up the video and subscribe. Don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one.